Hello and welcome to the Autodromo Internacional do Algarve in Portimao, Portugal. This 4.692 kilometre long circuit is located over 200 kilometres south of Portugal's capital, Lisbon, and is just a stone's throw from the ocean and Faro. This 14-corner circuit is absolutely wonderful, but there's more to it than just a great location, as it's a mix of tight and twisty, long sweeping corners and incredible undulation, making it a favourite for all of the riders. Because as we've seen already today, we have had two races. It is absolutely fantastic racing, and we're coming up to what is usually the highlight of the day, the Moto3 Junior World Championship round. My name is Harry Lloyd, and joining me in the commentary position today is the news editor for MotoGP.com, Fran Wild, and it's time for the Moto3 Junior World Championship, round 6 of their series. They've obviously had one more round than everyone else because they get to race in France, in Le Mans, alongside the MotoGP World Championship. They did that early in the year. Guess what? It was a great race. We almost always have great racing in Moto3. There's the teams. I mean, this class continues to, we talk so much about this class and this series breeding talent, but most of these top guys are also now running in the World Championship alongside their SEV duties, aren't they?
Yeah, I think this is one of the good things about the calendar as well, that it allows them to get that experience at world level alongside a lot of their CV duties. Like obviously Lorenzo Dalla Porta will now be a fantastic example of that permanently from Silverstone onwards with the Sky VR46 outfit.
Exactly. He has also signed a factory contract with the Mahindra team for 2017. He did have a lot of offers on the table, but Mahindra managed to lock him down. So he's going to, the rest of this year is basically just going to be nothing but racing for him. And this is the second time that he's actually raced the second half of the GP season. So in 2017, his results at the start of the year may be a bit mixed because he's never raced at places like Qatar. But from Silverstone onwards, watch out for Lorenzo Dalla Porta next year. Also, watch out for him this weekend, this race right now. He's leading the championship, 143 points. He can't wrap up the title this weekend as they do only have one race here, then 2 races in Jerez and 2 races in Valencia, but he can certainly do his title challenge a world of good. Now, aside from him, his chief title rival, Marcos Ramirez, he's done the last 2 World Championship rounds. He's on a KTM in this championship, but Ramirez is also riding a Mahindra in the World Championship. He's had a bit of a tough time swapping between Mahindra and KTM. Bit tough for Ramirez, but he's back on form this weekend and will be looking to keep pushing Lorenzo Dalla Porta because the other guys haven't really been able to find the consistency that Ramirez has. There is the man, number 48, Lorenzo Dalla Porta. Dada to his friends. He's looking good on the KTM with the JHK Leglise team. He was meant to be in the World Championship full-time this year, but unfortunately the team ran into some financial difficulties. So he did step back down to the SEV, and it has proved to be an excellent move for him because he has been able to really show himself. Some guys who unfortunately won't be able to show themselves this weekend are Alberto Arenas, veteran of this series. He's another one who is now riding in the World Championship on the Peugeot bike, but unfortunately in Brno, while his teammate John McPhee was busy winning the race, he was unfortunately busy breaking his collarbone. So he's not here this weekend. He's been replaced by Borja Sanchez in that RW Mahindra Aspar team. That's obviously the junior team to the Aspar team in the World Championship. We're also missing Mark Garcia, number 41. He unfortunately broke a finger during practice, so he has been ruled out. And then we're also missing Makar Yurchenko, the Russian, who broke his fibula, which is no good for him because he's been really, really good, really wild, but lovely to watch. And it's not just this racing and the World Championship that riders do. Lorenzo Dalla Porta got a lovely new haircut for this weekend. He did not look like that in Brno when he visited the Sky team.
I think maybe he's picked up some style tips from some of the other guys he'll now be running with.
Yeah, definitely. He, of course, will be replacing Romano Fenati, as you rightly said earlier, in that Sky VR46 team after Fenati's various dramas. All of that's been discussed to death, so we will move swiftly on. But definitely one to watch before this race. Certainly the race favourite, He's just so quick. He was super quick last year, but he was a bit too aggressive. Fell a lot, crashed into a lot of people, didn't have the best reputation, but now he's a step above. And this weekend, what a result from his teammate, Raul Fernandez, also riding in the Red Bull Rookies Championship. He's currently third in that Red Bull Rookies Championship, second on the grid here. His best ever qualifying, his first front row of the year. He was strong in warm-up. He's very young, not sure what action he was doing there, something a bit cheeky, no doubt, from Fernandez, but really good from him. It was actually quite interesting during qualifying. They had a bit of issues during qualifying. Here is done in 2 stages, so there's Q1 and Q2, and your best time from whichever session is where you go on the grid. And in Q1, they had a fairly big problem with people waiting around for a tow. So they actually brought in the MotoGP rules of you have to be within 110% of your best time within each sector, or you get a penalty, and that really made everyone sit up nice and quick.
I think that's a good idea as well, because obviously a lot of the guys that are in the Moto3 World Championship come from the CV Junior World Championship. So I think it's a good kind of continuity as well before they kind of move up to the next step and then find things that are so different.
For sure. And now here is Rory Skinner for all our fans back in the UK. Young Rory Skinner. They're listening to some music. Obviously great friends with John McPhee. They are both Scottish. This is Rory Skinner's best ever qualifying in this championship. He had to miss Valencia and Le Mans due to a broken wrist, and that really dented his confidence, and he was having a fair bit of trouble, you know, finding that form, because he's so quick. But, you know, he's full of confidence now, and he is really ready for this race. He's another one who's been doing really well in the Red Bull Rookies, you know, really pushing those usual guys. He got 9th and a 7th place in Sachsenring, then, you know, 2 more top 10s in Austria, and then he was 4th in the second race in Brno. So he's coming here on the crest of a wave. Of course, when he did get his first Red Bull Rookies front row in Aragon last year, he then did go on to the podium. So fingers crossed for Rory. Hopefully, you know, he can go back to Scotland and show John his winner's trophy, and they can compare trophies. But here's Marcos Ramirez, one to watch again. It's his 2nd time off the front row in 4th place. Number 42. Also racing, as we said, in the World Championship, but on the Mahindra, having a bit of troubles on that bike, but now he's back on his beloved KTM. It is all good for him, and although he's qualified in 4th, watch out for him, you know, as is so typical in Moto3. Big groups of riders, all about the slipstream, all about getting your elbows out. And then just behind Mr. Marcos Ramirez will be Kaito Toba, fastest rider of the Asia talent team. That team has been set up to bring through talents from Asia, because the Japanese series isn't quite as healthy as it once was. So Kaito Toba, this is his 2nd year racing in Europe in the CEV Championship, and he has made huge steps. You know, he's won a race. He became Japan's first ever Moto3 race winner in this championship, and he loves to sit and wait for the last lap, but sometimes that sort of bit him a bit, as you can see in Catalunya. He tried a bit too hard. In Le Mans, he also tried a bit too hard on that last lap to overtake Ford to win, had a bit of a moment, had to settle for 2nd. But definitely one to watch, and if he's in that group and it comes down to the final lap, then you can guarantee that he's going to make a move. There you can see also, just to the left of your picture now, stepping behind the umbrella man is Hiroshi Oyama, obviously former 250cc world champion, the last ever 250cc world champion. He and Alberto Puig are involved in that one. And obviously huge amount of talent to them there. You can just see Alberto Puig whispering into the ear of number 32, Kaito Toba, no doubt giving hints and tips. And now we come on to Tony Arbolino with the SIC 58 Squadron Corsa team. That team run by Paolo Simoncelli there, you can see with the moustache and his arms folded. That team set up in the memory of Marco Simoncelli, who we so tragically lost. But now Paolo is continuing his name and bringing through some young Italian talent. He got his first podium there, as you can see, with that 2nd place. A great result for Tony Arbolino. And yet again, another guy to watch out for, because he is on the crest of a wave. Some really good form from Arbolino. A bit inconsistent, you know, much like the Japanese Championship. The Italian Championship isn't up to the standard that is the Moto3 Junior World Championship. You know, it's not called the Junior World Championship for nothing. This really does bring through the best of the best and just so much talent. And João Macia, so good to see him back finding a bit of form. He finished 5th in the championship last year, and a number of crashes this year have just seen him be a shadow of his former self. He's only 15 years old, super young. 2nd youngest on the grid now that we do have Rory Skinner here. He's absolutely tiny, but, you know, good to see that he is finding some form again. he'll be one to watch as well, starting from 7th place. As we said, you know, it's all about that group, and if you can stick in that group, then really anything's possible. Not to give away the results of the previous 2 races, but the last lap, especially in Moto2, it's been pretty important, and especially that run to the line.
I think definitely, yeah. I think that could really prove very interesting in Moto3, especially if they're in a sizable group by the time it gets to the final laps. Definitely, and I think there's definitely going to be a lot of people trying to figure out on the few last laps of the race where they need to be, or how far ahead they may need to be to definitely cross that line first.
Yep, and there we just saw Ayumu Sasaki, another one of those Asia Talent Team riders. He's currently leading the Red Bull Rookies Championship with 187 points over fellow Sev racer Alicia View, Alicia on 161. So we could see Sasaki crowned as the Red Bull Rookies Champion before our next round in Jerez on the 2nd of October. Here is Karel Haneker. Lovely new set of leathers for Karel Haneker. He obviously got rejected from the World Championship and has now come back down to the Sev. He did very well in Albacete, fighting for the podium. He had quite a good wild card in his native Brno with that Freudberg Racing team as well. The rumour is that they will move up to Moto2 in this championship next year with Haneker. Now, considering that suit is very, very orange and very, very KTM, I wonder if that team will run the WP/KTM Moto2 bike and use Karel Haneker as maybe a bit of a test rider.
Sounds like a possibility.
Not sure on that one, but definitely, as you say, could be a possibility. He is teammate to Marcos Ramirez. This is Gerard Ryu. He hasn't quite had the same consistency. He has a slightly different specification of bike to Marcos Ramirez as well. Gerard Ryu doing really, really well. And again, you know, with that Leopard Stratus team, obviously the Leopard team is run by a sled assembly entity in the World Championship. They are very closely linked. You do frequently see Christian Lomberg. He was the fastest man in warm this morning, very surprisingly. Stefano Manzi, he had a wild card in Austria, didn't have the best results, but he has been on the podium here before, and he did have the pace in morning warm-up. So Manzi will be one to keep an eye on. He's absolutely massive. He must be 6'3", I reckon. And trying to tuck onto a little Moto3 bike, being 6'3", must be a bit of a short. But it does mean he's very good on brakes. And here we go to run you through the grid once more before we get going. This race will be 16 laps. It is Lorenzo Della Porta in pole ahead of teammate Raul Fernandez. Rory Skinner completes the front row with Marcos Ramirez 4th, Kaito Toba 5th, Arbolino, Jalal Musia, Ayumu Sasaki, Karel Haneker there in 9th spot. Watch out for Karel Haneker, super aggressive and has been known to have a bit of a moment or two. Gerard Ryu starts the 4th row ahead of Stefano Manzi, Aaron Palenko there, Vincent Perez, Jeremy Alcoba, Marco Bezzecchi, Yari Montoya, Davide Pizzoli and Kazuki Masaki, another Japanese rider again with the Asia Talent team. Then beginning row 7 is Enzo Bullon, who is in his 3rd different team in as many races as he continues to hop from KTM to KTM. Ahead of Andy Farad, not the best qualifying for him. Dennis Foggia with the VR46, kind of a bit of a disaster for him, to be honest. Naka and Adarat Fuvapat in 22nd, ahead of Walid Sop. Then Gabriel Martinez Abrejo, the Mexican rider who will have a wild card in the World Championship. Philip Salak, a Czech rider. Matteo Gindi, Filippo Follini, Hector Garzo, Alicia View, Matteo Romo, Chandler Cooper, the Australian, Levan Luchel, the French rider. We do yet again have 2 different championships within this championship. There is the Moto3 class and there is the Moto3 production class. The Moto3 production class is based on a stock Honda. We have gotten the tyre sheet in, and Fran, I believe you have some updates on what tyres they're using for this race.
Yeah, it looks like everyone is on the same.
Everyone is on mediums.
Everyone is on mediums.
Usually we have Jaume Masia go for a softer option really because of his size, but clearly he's a bit worried about the temperature. It has now risen to 43 degrees on track, so 4 degrees hotter than the start of that Moto2 race, which will add an added level of complexity not only to this race but also to the 2 races we have coming up after this. As I said, we do have another Moto2 race, but before that and after this, it's a Superbike race. There we can just see the safety car going around as they go on their warm-up lap. As we say, the last winner was Lorenzo Della Porta. He won in Albacete before we took our summer break. He has won 4 times this year and is on track to hopefully take his 5th win of the season. He's only missed out on pole position once, and that was in Barcelona when Alonso Lopez, who is not here this weekend. Can't find out why he's not here, but Alonso Lopez is not here this weekend. He was part of the junior team Australia Galicia, who obviously have links there, but it is Lorenzo Della Porta, the pole man there. He did a 150.157 to claim that pole position, about 0.7 of a second off the 2015 pole record of Juan Mir, who's gone on to win a Grand Prix. So as you can see, the level very, very high in this championship. Get ready for action. There we can see bright orange Karel Hanneke, one to watch. Tony Arbolino, number 44, another one to keep an eye on. Lorenzo Della Porta there, sitting, waiting, watching everyone form up. His teammate, number 23, Raul Fernandez, making his way up into second spot for his best ever grid position. Kaito Toba there in fifth. He's going to have a great. Rory Skinner, one of the last to form up on the grid. As you can see, just pottering about on the left-hand side of your screen. The number 69 there moves into third spot. And once the red flag goes away, it will be time to race. Looks like a bit of an issue there at the back. Someone pushing their bike, number 61, Matteo Romeo, the Italian on the Grupo Mercado bike. It looks like, oh, that's no good. That looks like that's Sasaki as well pushing his bike. Hopefully he hasn't stalled it, as he has gotten into his grid spot. I'm hoping he hasn't stalled, because if someone does stall on the line, that is a big, big issue. And Sasaki is now in his grid spot. As we say, Sasaki is starting from 8th place. So the third row of the grid, the green flag at the back is waving, so it does look like everyone is okay. The lights will go on when they go out. It is time to race. They were very quick in the Moto2 race, and they're a bit longer now, and racing is underway. A great start from Raul Fernandez from second. Not bad from Lorenzo Della Porta. Della Porta, nor is it bad from Rory Skinner as well. The 3 KTMs launch away. A great start from, it looks like, Kaito Toba as well, who slides into third place. It is Rory Skinner in second. Lorenzo Della Porta shuffled back, and it looks like it is Raul Fernandez who leads a race. A great result from the young up-and-comer. Rory Skinner just behind. As we can see, both of the Asia Talent Team's bikes making good work there. It looks like Kaito Toba in the orange helmet is in a provisional third place, but there is still so long to go. As you can see, 16 laps. It looks like it is Tony Arbolino, number 44 on the 6th 58 Squadra Corsa bike. He is in fourth place. João Macia, a great start from him. Where has Lorenzo Della Porta gone? He's been absolutely swallowed up. There he is, back battling with Karel Hanneke, and what's that? Seventh place or so. He has some work to do, but that means that it'll be exciting. It also looks like a disastrous start from Marcos Ramirez, his chief title rival as well. He's back down the order. Looks like everyone has gotten through those first few corners. Okay, even these little Moto3 bikes are wheeling over that crest. Why don't we use Portimao for every race weekend is my biggest takeaway so far from this weekend. Good from Rory Skinner to be sticking with Raul Fernandez. Lorenzo Della Porta there, you can see, looks like he's getting hassled by Stefano Manzi, with Karel Hanneke looming behind them as well. What a great ride from these two at the front. Rory Skinner keeping it nice and steady, not pushing his limits. Oh, a bit of a twitch there from Raul Fernandez. That's why you need to keep it nice and steady, you boys out at the front. As we say, both of these guys are still learning their trade. They've had a couple of rides before, obviously both competing in the Red Bull Rookies, but the level here is just that much higher. The bikes are just that much higher spec, that much closer to World Championship. There is Lorenzo Della Porta with Stefano Manzi behind them. It looks like that is Marcos Ramirez behind them, and then Karel Hanneke further back. Rory Skinner, he's absolutely tiny. He's so lightweight. Is that going to benefit him down the straight? Looks like he pulled out the slipstream just a bit too early. Slipstreaming so vital in this championship, moving all over the spot. It is Raul Fernandez who does lead. Nothing to choose between him and Skinner though. Toba there, big move there from Karel Hanneke to get ahead of Lorenzo Della Porta. This is not what Della Porta needs. His only takeaway and hope from this is that Marcos Ramirez is only a couple of positions ahead, and they are in the lowest scoring positions right now. The battle at the front does continue to rage. Fernandez and Skinner need to be careful not to allow the likes of Tony Arbolino, Kaito Toba and Sasaki to catch up with them, because look at that massive group. They're now all one group. There's nothing to choose between them. João Macia takes a bit of the curbing there, but Sasaki does manage to slide past. What a great start to the race. It doesn't look like we are going to be dropping out anytime soon, as there is nothing to choose between the leading, what is that, 8 or so riders. It looks like Fernandez has opened up a tiny bit of clean air, but as we saw, Royston is so small, so that slipstream will be able to help him close down a huge bit, and with him will come all those other riders. João Mercedes' bike moving all over the shop. Oh, disaster there for one of the Pro Casa bikes. That's definitely not Marcos Ramirez. It has number 42 on it, but that's because that team is run by Alex Rins. I'm not sure which one of the Pro Casa bikes that is. I think it could be Davide Pizzoli, as he has dropped down the timesheets a fair bit, but Federico Fellini is also quite far down, so we will bring you an update on that when we get it. It does look like Raul Fernandez continuing to push hard to try and open up a gap. Tony Arbolino now starting to harass young Rory Skinner. Nothing should between all those rides. Kaito Toby continuing to stay there in 4th. Sasaki also doing well just off that back. Just off the back, it does now look like there is a slight split in the 2 groups, as the leading 4 are now all together, but it's going to be all change. Who's going to lead into the first corner? It was Raul Fernandez who crossed when they went across the line. Roy Skinner was second. Roy Skinner pushed back to 4th place, but it is Kaito Toba who seizes the lead. A great move from the Japanese rider. Can he break away? Will we see something different? And then look at that, those following 4 riders of Manzi, Masia, Ramirez, and Sasaki now right with them as well. This is an absolute all-out brawl. That looks like a bit of a big crash there for Hector Garzo. Disappointing for him, as he was in contention for the Moto3 Production Championship, and that will do his championship challenges no good, but good to see that he is walking away. Of course, rider health and safety is the #1 thing. And he's chosen just to walk back to the pits. Enjoy the Portuguese scenery. Meanwhile, we come back to the front. It is a Honda 1-2, as Kaito Toba does lead ahead of Tony Arbolino. But as I say that, Stefano Manzi, look how big he is, muscling that Mahindra around to get up into 2nd place. The straights are going to kill him, so he really, really needs to try and open up as much space as he can. Just look at how big he is compared to his fellow Italian, Tony Arbolino. And he takes the lead ahead of Kaito Toba. But with all those riders behind, Lorenzo Della Porta still nowhere to be seen. A great start from Dennis Foggia. He was down in, what, 21st? And he's now up inside the point scoring position. So a good race there from the Italian. And it is Stefano Manzi who leads, trying to open up a bit of an advantage over Kaito Toba. He does have several wide plates, but because Manzi is so big, just look how big he is. He has absolutely no advantage down the straight. If this track were nothing but corners, he would be happy. But with that straight, it's going to be tough. Rory Skinner trying to use a bit of extra track there, get a bit of extra drive. Here we go. Arbolino, he makes a bit of a move. Raul Fernandez comes with him. And look at that, Manzi gets sucked from 1st back to what's that 4th, potentially even lower, depending on what the likes of Ramirez can do. It is Fernandez who overtakes the lead. Kaito Toba gets pushed back by the absolutely massive body of Stefano Manzi. Nice work there from Fernandez to hold on to the lead. Fernandez racing like an old hand, even though he is still relatively new to this championship. You know, racing in the Red Bull Rookies will be a huge boost to him as well, because he does get so much track time. Fortunately for him, he's on a KTM in both championships, so not having to learn 2 different bikes. Ayumu Sasaki is now right with his teammate Kaito Toba. Marcos Ramirez, big movements from him. He's now up into 4th place. Meanwhile, Lorenzo Della Porta is still struggling to crack the top 8. There you can see the Dayglow yellow leathers of him just behind Karel Haneker once again. And that looks like that's Masaki as well. All 3 of the 5 Asia Talent Team riders doing really, really well. Come on, huge amounts from where they were last year. Big battle there for, that looks like Karel Haneker as well. Ramirez now up into the podium ahead of Stefano Manzi. This is exactly what Ramirez needs for his championship, and exactly what Lorenzo Della Porta doesn't need.
Yeah, you can see now the initial groups that they kind of split off at the start are starting to come back together again. There's the 4 at the front sometimes are managing to maintain that advantage around parts of the track, but it's essentially sort of 15-20 rider train as soon as you get the slipstream effect. Yeah, exactly. We're going to see them all, no doubt, close back up into turn 1, but as you can see, that group of 4 is really, really close. It is all about the slipstream, who will play it to perfection. Look at that, number 12, Marco Bezzacchi, right at the back of your screens there. He's still in touching distance with all these guys so close together, but it is Tony Arbolino who begins
lap 5, 12 laps to go. He is in the lead. Marcos Ramirez is right there. Ramirez is the most experienced rider on this grid. He knows exactly what to do in all these situations. He has certainly the speed advantage over someone like Manzi, and he has the experience advantage over the guys of Arbolino and Fernandez. So if it does come down to the last lap, he will know what to do. But watch out for Karel Haneke. He's there in 5th, and he's looking to make movements. Stefano Manzi carries that corner speed so well to get ahead of Marcus Ramirez and move into a provisional 2nd place. Mahindra have never won a race in this championship. They've won 2 races in the World Championship, but never a Sev. But that could all change if Manzi can keep this up, and if he can open up enough of a gap to cancel out his disadvantage of size down the straight. Tony Arbolino, he's only had 1 podium so far this year. He could as well be on track for a potential first win of these leading 4. It is only Marcos Ramirez who's ever won a Moto3 race before in this championship. So it's all new at the front. Looks like they've settled down a bit after those hectic opening laps, you know, just trying to work together and open up a bit of a gap, because it is Karel Haneke who leads Rory Skinner and Lorenzo Della Porta in that chasing group. Della Porta making up some ground now. He's going to be trying to escape with the likes of Karel Haneke, or potentially Karel Haneke could latch onto the back of Della Porta and try and close down these groups. But this is not the ride that Della Porta wanted or needed for his championship. He's going to be splitting his time between 2 championships now, and staying focused in both is going to be really tough. Here we come, down to the straight. Stefano Manzi in 2nd, but Marcos Ramirez, who's not the smallest guy in the world, he slips past without too much hassle. Then Raul Fernandez around the outside like a freight train. He can't quite do it. Look at how much ground Stefano Manzi makes up on the race. Absolutely incredible. But it is still Tony Arbolino who does stay in the lead. Meanwhile, it looks like the Asia Talent Team bikes have dropped out of the top 8, unfortunately for them. As we just have a quick rundown through the top 10, it is, as we say, Arbolino from Manzi, from Fernandez, from Ramirez, from Haneke, from Skinner in 6th, Della Porta 7th, Kaito Toba 8th, Sasaki 9th, Misaki 10th, Jeremy Alcober in 11th. Oh, all changes at the front. It's all happening here. Stefano Manzi tried to make a move, but it is his fellow Italian, Tony Arbolino, who does manage to just wrestle his way back. Nakaran Adarat Fuvapat for our Thai fans out there. He is into 12th ahead of Dennis Foggia, so a great result from him. Then Andy Izdahar, for any Indonesians who may be watching, he's in 19th and making solid progress.
A lot of the grid there running over on the rumble strips. Quite a long way.
Yeah, and that is something that they have to watch out, because if they are found to have gained an unfair advantage from running off the track, then there can be penalties. And look at this. That Lorenzo Della Porta is now closing them in and bringing Rory Skinner with him. This race, you thought it was 4 riders. Nah, it's going to be 6 riders fighting for the lead soon. There's nothing to choose between those leading 4. I feel like maybe Ramirez is keeping his powder dry a bit, holding off 1 or 2 moves, trying to save something a bit for that last lap, because he is really the one who does need to win this race to keep his championship alive. Here's 107 points to Lorenzo Della Porta's 43 points. By my calculation, that is a 36-point difference when this race began. Raul Fernandez, great move from him. He's going to have the speed down the straight, but it looks like Marcos Ramirez does have the slipstream, and look, nothing to choose between any of those top 7. They're now all together. Stefano Manzi went from leading to now he's in, what, 5th place it looks like. So, as you can see, and now Rory Skinner's back up on a potential podium after dropping way off that field.
It's like Lorenzo Della Porta was outside the top 10 for a lot of the initial few laps of that race, and now he's straight back in, challenging for the lead.
Now he's right in. Karel Haneke's in there as well. All of these famous names and names to watch, like Raul Fernandez, like Tony Arbolino, like Rory Skinner. There he is, Rory Skinner compared to Stefano Manzi. You can pretty easily see who the bigger boy is there. And it's unfortunately not Rory. Lorenzo Della Porta now into 2nd. What a great recovery from the Italian. It's an Italian 1-2-3 at the 2nd. Unfortunate crash there for Tim Georgi, the German. Bit of a gravel kick. Luckily, he is up and walking the number 7 on the KTM. His teammates too, Karel Haneke, just lost the front. Oh, lucky to avoid Gabriel Martinez, the Mexican rider, but pretty inconsequential crash there for him. Bit of a lay down as well. Tony Arbolino, he's managed to open up a bit of room over Stefano Manzi in an internal Lorenzo Della Porta. Marcos Ramirez needs to get a giddy up on. He needs to try and get ahead of Lorenzo Della Porta. He needs as many points as he can get in this championship. Meanwhile, the likes of Sasaki, Masaki, Kaito Toba, and Jeremy Alcoba are continuing to close up these guys. Where has Jaume Macia gone? Jaume Macia has dropped down to 16th place. So there I was singing his praises at the start of the race, and he's out of the points. Bit of a disaster for him there. Hopefully he can recover to at least score some points. Meanwhile, the Italians are fighting it out themselves. It does look like if Manzi has a slipstream, he can stick with the likes of Tony Arbolino, and as I say that, he does take the lead, but will Della Porta shove it up his inside? No, he does manage to get it stopped. His figure looming over the bike. Lorenzo Della Porta having a sniff through, but now Marcos Ramirez is there. Karel Haneke, he's there as well, a former Red Bull rookie champion, the most successful Red Bull rookie in history, I believe. And then Marcos Ramirez, Rory Skinner, all names there, mixing up all names who have ridden on the World Championship apart from Rory Skinner. And all guys who know that they can do it. And there we go. 4 other riders looking to join the fray as it's all chop and change at the front. Stefano Manzi does continue to hang on to his lead just, but watch out for Karel Haneke. He has some pace. And so far, the fastest lap of this race has gone to Stefano Manzi, a 150.769 set on the second lap of the race. Lorenzo Della Porta continuing to smash out the low 152s. Meanwhile, Tony Arbolino does continue to hit 151.9s. At the front, there is no change. It is still Manzi who does lead. Tony Arbolino, a great move there to move into second. Forces Lorenzo Della Porta to sit up. No love lost there between the Italians. Oh, there's a problem for someone. It looks like Stefano Manzi's engine has gone. Oh no, the Italian, the Mahindra, has given up the ghost and is forced to sit up. Make sure you get off track. You don't want to be leaking oil everywhere. Disaster for him, as any chance of a podium now slips away from him. Here we have the replay. It started smoking, and then he looks down. He's obviously had a loss of power, and then rolls off to the side of the track. You also saw a bit of knee touching there between Rory Skinner and Karel Haneke. There he goes, rolling off track, keeping it off the racing line, exactly what you want to do. Of course, if this race were to be red flagged and we haven't reached 2/3 race distance, it would have to be restarted, but it doesn't look like there were any issues there. It looks like Dennis Foggia, he's had to retire from the race after his incredible start, so disappointment for him as well. It's all still drama. Look at this leading group. How many riders is that? That looks like that's 10 riders all battling for the lead. It is Della Porta versus Ramirez at the front. There's Stefano Manzi having a bit of a play around with the gear shifter. Huge disappointment for him. He's not too happy, and that engine looks toasted, unfortunately for him. We'll be back to the workshop in Busozo for that Mahindra to see what was happening. And I tell a lie, actually, I thought it was Lorenzo Della Porta battling with Ramirez, but it is his teammate, again in Dayglow yellow. It is Raul Fernandez who's currently in second, mixing it with the experienced likes of Marcos Ramirez, who is in the lead, exactly what Ramirez wants to do and needs to do. Then in third is currently Karel Haneke, but Lorenzo Della Porta just slides it up the inside of the wild Czech rider. Meanwhile, Jeremy Alcoba was there in fifth. There we see Dennis Foggia, another one out of the VR46 Academy stables, trudging back to the pits. Disappointing race for him, and it looks like Ramirez and Fernandez have opened up just the tiniest bit of a gap there over the rest of the field. Lots of fighting going on there for a potential 4th place. They really need to work together and make sure those leading 3 don't escape, because right now that gap from 1st to 4th is looking pretty sizable. As we run down the field, it is Ramirez from Fernandez, from Della Porta, from what looks to be Haneke as they get set to come across the line. It is Ramirez who leads as we enter the second half of the race. Well and truly into it now, 7 laps to go. Someone tore something off their bike, bit of debris coming up there. It is Raul Fernandez who leads into the first corner. Great showing from the youngster, relatively inexperienced, but able to take the fight to Marcos Ramirez. And then in third, Lorenzo Della Porta continues to watch. Rory Skinner right there in 4th, ahead of Sasaki, ahead of Jeremy Alcoba, ahead of Masaki, with Karel Haneke now getting pushed back down the order a tiny bit there. The graphics still showing Fernandez as in second, but he is in fact in 1st place. Although will that change now? It looks like no, he does manage to close the door on Marcos Ramirez. No, thank you, sir, you're not coming in today. I would quite like to win this race, is I'm sure what he said in his helmet in Spanish to himself. But this is a rip-roaring battle for first place because we do still, of course, have Lorenzo Della Porta right in the mix as well. You know, we saw him fight back from outside the top 10 out of a bit of a disastrous start, and he is now able to match these guys at the front. Of course, as we said, this is the only Moto3 race of the day. Moto3 will next be on track on the 2nd of October in Jerez for the penultimate round before the season gets sent off in style. Oh, a bit of a problem there for Rory Skinner as he got sent wide. He's now out of contention there, I would assume, for the podium. Bit of a problem for him. Not sure if he just missed a gear or if there's a problem with the bike. He did seem to be flapping his leg about trying to find a gear on that gearbox. He's on an FTR KTM, so a KTM engine and an FTR frame, not the usual tubular chassis that these three guys at the front will be running. What's going to happen on the straight? I still think it's going to come down all about this run to the line and onto the straight. When you see that green runoff area there, you know that we're getting close to the start-finish straight. Can Ramirez do it? This could be a dress rehearsal. Were that to happen, it looks like Ramirez would not be able to do it if he pulled that move at the exact same time. Meanwhile, there's a great battle going on for fourth. Rory Skinner a bit isolated now in 10th. A great ride from Gerard Ryu in 11th, battling with Macra and Adarat Fuvupat for there. João Macia, he's back in the 13th spot, so good for him as well. Here we have Arbolino, who was leading much of the race. He's now battling with the likes of the Asia Talent team, trio of Toba, Sasaki and Masaki for third place. Good for them, as we say, continual improvements for those riders and that team. And it is Arbolino, a bit of a wobble there. It looks like there's a bit of a bump on corner entry there, but no issues for him as he continues to keep the Asia Talent team trio at bay.
You can really see now how the second group seem to be quite out of touch with the lead three. Obviously, they're all focused on each other, trying to get ahead of each other, and they've really lost a lot of time to the front three who've all got their heads down and just concentrate on keeping the pace.
Yeah, exactly, and that is the thing, is that, you know, all three of these guys at the front will know that if they do just let someone lead and not worry about leading themselves, that they then can work together to escape at the front. And then once they have a nice big lead, then they can start to worry about who's actually going to win this race. But right now it is Marcos Ramirez who does lead ahead of Raul Fernandez, with Lorenzo Della Porta continuing to watch on in third. That group fourth, as you said, quite rightly, a great battle, but one that's not helping their chances of getting on the podium unless there were to be some disaster that happens amongst these front three. Now it's Fernandez's turn to get use of Ramirez's slipstream down the straight. What's going to happen here? Fernandez does have the weight advantage, does he have the power and drive advantage? It does certainly look so as he moves into first just as they cross the line. Can Ramirez do anything on the brakes? Yes, he can. Ramirez great on the brakes there. Della Porta continuing, just watching and waiting in third place. You know, third place for Della Porta would not be the end of the world with the points difference between him and Ramirez starting this race off at 36 points. You know, he would still almost certainly have a race win in it, so that's more than comfortable. Plus, he doesn't want to be injuring himself now with so many opportunities on the horizon, especially that Sky VR46 opportunity. As an Italian, can't really ask for much better.
Exactly, definitely. He's really got the perfect scenario here because unless something happens, he's pretty much guaranteed to be on the podium. His nearest title contender is going to be 1 or 2 positions up the road is a worst case scenario. So, and obviously the following pack as well, he's got quite a gap back to them, so he doesn't have to worry about suddenly getting mugged on the last corner.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like we may have had a further issue for Rory Skinner. Couldn't see him at the back of our screens when they all came around. It looked like Gerard Ryu was the fastest bike again here. Oh, big move there from Karel Hanneke. Karel Hanneke's gone down and taken out 2 of the Asia Talent Team riders. What an aggressive move. It looks like that is Sasaki and Masaki have been taken out by number 92, Karel Hanneke. I can't say I'm surprised with Karel Hanneke. The IO team apparently had nicknamed him Gravel Hanneke, and he has now taken down 2 riders. That's going to shake things up absolutely dramatically there. Tony Arbolino now pretty isolated in 4th place, with Kaito Choba now quite comfortable in 5th place. But what a move there from Karel Hanneke. Hopefully we can get a replay of that one to find out exactly what happened there. It looks like Hanneke maybe just a bit too overly ambitious. But good to see that Sasaki and Masaki were back up and walking. Meanwhile, Lorenzo Della Porta, watch out, here comes Dada up into second place, and with Marcos Ramirez in his sights. So with those three riders crashing out, Jeremy Alcoba now into 6th, Jared Ryu 7th, Jamal Masia 8th. It does look like Rory Skinner has an issue as he's not showing up on our time sheets. Nakaran Adarat Fuvapat 9th. There is Sasaki walking away. As you can see, Sasaki, Masaki and Hanika all involved in that accident. That's a very second-hand Honda machine there. Here we go, here it is. Watch bright orange, Carol Hanika. Bit wide there. And then Carol Hanika just slams into Sasaki. Then Masaki has nowhere to go and is just collateral. Very, very aggressive from Carol Hanika, was carrying in way too much corner speed there. Trying to go up the inside of Toba, who had ran wide. It looks like Ramirez has now opened up some clean air over Lorenzo Della Porta as we enter the final 4 laps of the race. And yes, I can confirm that Rory Skinner has been forced to pit, unfortunately. Andy Farad, he's also doing well for our Indonesian fans, and it looks like he could be on track for his first ever points, I believe, in this championship. So a great ride from the Indonesian rider, as we said, benefiting a bit. There's the JHK Leglise team watching eagerly on as their riders look set to battle for second place unless they can pull out some magic and close that gap to Marcos Ramirez, who, as we say, has now opened up a bit of air. 5 points lost would not be the end of the world for Lorenzo Della Porta, but it could give Marcos Ramirez the hope he needs to keep pushing for this title. Meanwhile, Fernandez, wonder if there will be any team orders between those two. Is Fernandez going to say, nah, I'm doing this, I want second place? He's certainly on for a potential first podium. Hopefully he doesn't do anything stupid and throw it away. Hopefully Lorenzo Della Porta doesn't get frustrated with his young teammate and do something overly aggressive, because Tony Arbolino continuing to close up. Arbolino in 4th, Kaito Toba in 5th. Him running wide proved to be a blessing with Carol Hanika's overly aggressive move. Jeremy Alcoba in 6th. Nakaran Adarat Fuvapat, 7th place for the Thai rider. Jamal Masia, 8th. Jared Ryu, 9th. Marco Bezzecchi, 10th. Enzo Bullon up in the points in 11th. Davide Pozzoli, 12th. Andy Farad, as we said, 13th on his first points. Maximilian Kapler, good on him in 14th. And Filippo Fellini, he rounds out the points in 15th, leading the Moto3 production class is yet again Ali Chaviu, who has been a step above in that class all year. Tony Arbolino is definitely gaining on those leading 3, and it looks like those leading 3 now pretty spread out. Della Porta in 3rd. Could he even potentially drop into the clutches of Tony Arbolino? You know, he did start far down in those opening laps after a pretty poor start. He will have had to have pushed those tyres pretty hard. Could they now be starting to bite back? Or is he just not as strong in the first half of the lap, because he does now seem to have closed down on his teammate Raul Fernandez a fair bit in the second half of the lap? Meanwhile, it looks like Kaito Toba is also going to get worried by Jeremy Alcoba. There we go again. There is, I'm guessing, the father of Raul Fernandez down in that JHK Leglise team. Hopefully we don't have a Ducati Argentina situation on our hands on the final corner. Lorenzo Della Porta did say his idol was Valentino Rossi and not Andrea Iannone, so fingers crossed.
Okay, we should be safe over the last few laps then.
Exactly. But here we go, penultimate lap getting underway. Raul Fernandez is right with him, but so is Lorenzo Della Porta. They've closed that gap from nowhere. Lorenzo Della Porta is in contention for the victory. He moves ahead into second, ahead of his teammate. Marcos Ramirez is staying cool for now, but he has an Italian and a fellow Spaniard breathing down his neck. Those two white, yellow, and blue bikes just there behind his nice baby blue with that orange KTM logo on the side. It's all going to be about strategy. Can Ramirez open up just enough of a gap? Oh, Della Porta runs wide, and Fernandez says, thank you very much, friend. I'm moving back up into second place. But can he now close the gap down to Ramirez? Because this is the thing, if Della Porta thinks he has better pace, he's now going to have to work past Fernandez, and it's going to be hard. There's Della Porta's father, tense in the pits. Certainly wouldn't want to be in his situation. Meanwhile, Tony Arbolino continues to wait in 4th, potentially picking up the pieces. Bit of a wider line there from Lorenzo Della Porta. Try and carry a bit more corner speed, like we saw from Stephen Oendal in the Moto2 race. It looks like Kaito Toba has now dropped from behind Jeremy Alcoba, judging by our pictures. I think he may have had a problem or may have crashed out. As we said, we will update you when we cross the line, but it is all about this battle for victory at the front. There's still anything to go. You know, we've seen these gaps close up so much. Don't rule out Tony Arbolino as well. If the fighting gets fierce at the front, he could easily close up that gap. They work their way down to the start-finish line. Raul Fernandez, his little brother, I'm guessing. They certainly look alike. Here we go. The last lap begins. It is Marcos Ramirez who leads, just 2/10 ahead of Raul Fernandez and Lorenzo Della Porta in third, but that could all change by the time they come down into the first corner. Lorenzo Della Porta ambitious on the brakes. Can he hold it? He does hold it. A great move from the Italian to lead as we begin the last lap. Looks like they're coming up on a back marker who, with a battle this intense, could play a fairly big part. It does look like Kaito Toba has dropped to 6th place, unfortunately for our Japanese fans out there. Meanwhile, it is still Della Porta, but Ramirez is right with him. These two, they're battling for the title, and their title battle is now about out on track. Ramirez makes a move, he goes up the inside, takes the title line, he forces Della Porta out wide. Raul Fernandez, he's also watching. He's not disrupted by this battle at all. He's going to have great drive. It's all getting a bit tense in that garage. Here comes Lorenzo Della Porta, but here comes Marcos Ramirez. Has a look. He goes for the inside line. Can he stand him up? He blocks him. Will Lorenzo Della Porta have the better drive? Over the crest they go, almost 3 abreast. Shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow. It is Lorenzo Della Porta who leads ahead of Ramirez. Ramirez continuing to just look for a way through. This is all going to be about the last corner and the drag to the line. Get ready to get to the edge of your seats, ladies and gentlemen. Marcos Ramirez looking for a way through, but Lorenzo Della Porta riding nice and defensively, but not sacrificing his corner speed too much. There we can see a back marker. Will that back marker play a role in this race? I believe that's Chandler Cooper, but I'm not 100% sure. It is Lorenzo Della Porta who leads as they begin the final run down to the line. Marcos Ramirez looking for a tight line. It's all going to be about the slipstream. Raul Fernandez, he's in there as well. That is Chandler Cooper. Will he play a role in this race? He will certainly give Lorenzo Della Porta a bit more of a slipstream, but look at that corner speed from Marcos Ramirez. Incredible corner speed. He goes for it. Has he pulled his move too early, or is it the perfect time? It is now all about the run to the line. Who will it be? It looks like it is Marcos Ramirez who wins here in Portugal, just ahead of Lorenzo Della Porta. A great ride from Raul Fernandez for his first podium. Jeremy Alcoba, he manages to just hold off Tony Arbolino, with Kaito Toba finishing 6th, Jaume Masia in 7th, Nakaran Adarat Fuvat in 8th place, Jared Ryu at top 10, Marco Bezecchi 10th, Enzo Boulon 11th. Elation in the pits for that JHK team, and who can blame them? A double podium. What a race, what a race.
Yeah, it was an incredible photo finish there. One of those where you really can't call it until you really see it confirmed on the timing screen.
0.003 between Ramirez and Della Porta. That is what dreams are made of. Ramirez absolutely ecstatic to get first place. Fran will now make her way down into Parc Fermé to chat to Marcos Ramirez, who will no doubt be beaming. Bit of a wheelie there, nice little stand-up wheelie from him on his KTM. These Moto3 machines can be a bit hard to wheelie because they aren't the most powerful things in the world. Raul Fernandez, he'll no doubt be thrilled to have, you know, not only gotten his first podium, but to also have led that race and shown exactly what he can do with the guys. Tony Arbolino, not sure what happened to him. He eventually finished in 5th place, just behind Jeremy Alcoba, part of that Australia Glacier junior team. As we said, that team, you know, Canet came through there, and Jorge Navarro, he's now riding in there. He didn't ride for them in the Sev, but he has now gotten a berth with them. So a great second place for Lorenzo Della Porta, exactly what he needs for the championship. You know, only 5 points lost for him over Marcos Ramirez. No huge worry there, because it is still a long way to go. As I said, we still do have 2 rounds, 4 races for this Moto3 Junior World Championship class. We have 2 races in Jerez and then 2 races in Valencia. That is just a week after the MotoGP World Championship finale in Valencia. So the likes of Ramirez and Dalla Porta will have huge experience of that circuit because they've obviously been racing there under 7 days ago. They'll have done thousands of kilometres around Valencia by the time this season is over, because Valencia also opened this CEV Repsol season in 2016 there. We can see revving the engine a bit, just one final bit of celebratory revel for Marcos Ramirez. Usually runs at number 24, but his number was unfortunately taken by Chandler Cooper this year, as Marcos Ramirez, surprisingly enough, a bit of a last-minute entry to this championship, but he's now proving to be a force to reckon with. There you can see Christian Lundberg in the blue sunglasses, also works with the Leopard team in Moto3 and has brought through stars such as Fabio Quartararo. If you want anyone in your corner, you want him. He definitely knows his stuff. There you can also see Raul Fernandez hugs with the team, and well-deserved as well, because he has had a great weekend, continuing to just build on his confidence. Here comes Lorenzo Dalla Porta, leathers unzipped, clearly a bit hot. Lorenzo Dalla Porta, he was in theory meant to ride for the Sky team in Brno, but it was all a bit last minute, and he was also carrying a bit of a shoulder injury from during the mid-season break. So I wonder if that shoulder injury is still affecting him just a tiny bit. He is now talking with the team. Doesn't seem overly pleased with that result, but you know, he should be pleased with it. And here we go now for the full race standings. As we say, this is our only Moto3 race here today, but what an excellent Moto3 race it was. Marcos Ramirez, 0.003 of a second ahead of Lorenzo Dalla Porta. Raul Fernandez takes his first ever podium. Jeremy Alcoba manages to just beat Tony Arbolino, who seemed to have some sort of problem, to drop back 2 seconds behind him. Kaido Toba 6th, Jaume Messia in 7th, Gerard Ryu 8th, Marco Bezzecchi in 9th. The leading Mahindra after Stefano Manzi's engine went the way of Valentino Rossi's in Mugello and spat itself to death. Nakran Adarat Fuvapat, he finishes in 10th spot. A great result for the Thai rider. Enzo Bullon 11th, Andy Farid Izdahar in 12th, Davide Pozzoli 13th, Maximilian Kapler 14th, Philip Sark, a point for the Czech rider who beats out Filippo Fellini. Kazuki Masaki, he managed to remount to finish in 16th spot. Then Gabriel Martinez Areco, he gets 19th ahead of Alicia View, who was the leading production rider. Yari Monteya, disappointing race from him. Luchel ahead of Chandler Cooper, and then Matteo Romeo was your last finisher. Disaster for Rory Skinner, Ayumu Sasaki, and Carol Haneker, who were unable to score points. Carol Haneker obviously taking out a couple of guys there. A fair few DNF that we didn't get to see there throughout the course of the race. A war of attrition it was.
Okay, so that was an incredible race. You just crossed the line in front. Talk us through that. Well done.
Thank you very much. The race was too hard because it's very hot here in Portimao, and in the first part of the race I was 10 more or less, and I pushed hard to the top, and I was first, 6 laps to go, and I pushed very hard, and I can pull away a little bit, but in the last corner in front close the bike, and Dalla Porta and Raul catch me, and in the last lap I do here I win in extremis. Thank you to all the team for this work, and better in the next race.
Ali, otra vez en castellano, por favor.
Bueno, la carrera la verdad es que ha sido muy dura por la calor que hace aquí en Portimao, pero bueno, he salido muy mal, me he quedado muy atrás y he empezado a adelantar pilotos uno tras otro, y bueno, cuando faltaban 6 vueltas más o menos me he puesto primero, he tirado a muerte y he abierto un hueco de medio segundo, un segundo, pero en la última curva se me ha cerrado de delante y he estado a punto de caerme y me han cogido mis perseguidores. Y bueno, la última vuelta he dado todo de mí, he entrado a meta a tope y bueno, he ganado en extremi, que es una victoria. Y bueno, dar gracias al equipo y a todos los que han trabajado y todos los que han venido a verme aquí, a animarme desde sus casas, viéndome desde la tele. Y bueno, y para la próxima más y mejor.
Vale, enhorabuena.
Muchas gracias.
Yet another very pleased race winner, and well-deserved there from Marcos Ramirez, always pushing to do harder. Here we go with the race highlights. A great start from Raul Fernandez, very distinctive leg kick there, very stylish. I might try and add that one to my little scooter riding antics when the lights go out, give it a bit of a leg flick. Rory Skinner, great start to the race from him as he chased Raul Fernandez at the beginning of this wonderful 16-lap contest that we had. They had made a bit of a gap at the start, but in typical Moto3 fashion, the gap wouldn't last and they would get closed down with the likes of Sasaki, Misaki, and Kaito Toba there. We had Stefano Manzi and Kaito Toba. They were battling for the lead with Tony Arbolino for the start of the race. Stefano Manzi adding in a huge amount of excitement with his huge frame there, as you can just see how much bigger he is than even Marcos Ramirez, who's not the smallest Moto3 rider in the world. But the battling at the front was intense. There was almost never a lap without some sort of action. Look at that. Look at just Tony Arbolino, who went from, what, third to first in that manoeuvre. Simply fantastic, and that's what makes Moto3 so great. Here we have the unfortunate crash of Tim Georgie. Gabriel Martinez lucky and skillful to avoid him there, but luckily Tim Georgie was all okay. Here we have Karel Haneke. He was making a bit of a charge through the field. Meanwhile, Lorenzo Della Porta, who'd had a terrible start, did manage to make his way towards the front of the field and was battling Manzi until Manzi's engine unfortunately went pop, and the Italian was forced to roll back into the pits after what had been such an excellent race. Hugely disappointed for him. Then it became a battle of these three, two Spaniards and an Italian. It was Marcos Ramirez, Raul Fernandez, and Lorenzo Della Porta who continued to duke it out for victory. But the drama continued further back as Karel Haneke tried this very ambitious maneuver, ploughed into Sasaki, and then Misaki just got caught up in all the drama. Unfortunately, none of those two guys were able to score any points. Misaki did remount the score, but at the front we had an excellent last couple of laps, and it was Marcos Ramirez who, despite his self-admitted small mistake, did manage to just net the victory by 3,000th of a second ahead of title rival Lorenzo Della Porta, with Raul Fernandez completing the podium and stepping onto the box for the first time, as we'll see a little bit here. You'll also notice that above that 3 for Raul Fernandez, there is a bottle of fizzy water. That is because he is not of legal drinking age and can therefore not have the carver. So he unfortunately has to miss out on that one. Although, to be fair, Alicia View, he also can't have any carver. So at least they can have a fizzy water party together. And once again, like in Moto2 and in the Superbike class, we do have 4 people on the podium because Alicia View, he won the Moto3 production class race, so he also gets a podium and a trophy for him. Those Moto3 production bikes are based on pretty much the stock standard Honda, so there's not really any way that even if you put someone like Della Porta or Ramirez on one of those bikes, they could challenge for the victory. So nice to get them up there. Of course, that is a low-cost way to get people into the championship and get them racing and get them spotted, because even though the bikes aren't super powerful, you can still put in some good performances and get yourself noticed. There's Raul Fernandez, his first time up on the CEV podium. He's obviously pretty regular front runner in the Red Bull Rookies, currently 3rd in that championship, I believe, but now good to see that he's showing the pace here, and he'll definitely be on a number of team managers' shopping lists. Here he is, Lorenzo Della Porta. After this, he could very well be on our flight back to the UK tonight, because he will be racing in Silverstone, as you rightly said at the top of the broadcast, Fran, with the Sky VR46 team, and then beyond that he will be with Mahindra, so no worries for him for the foreseeable future. But this man here, a deserved victory for Marcos Ramirez. He's going to do all he can to make Lorenzo Della Porta work for this Moto3 Junior World Championship title, and if every race is as good as that, then I cannot wait for the 2 rounds we have in for the 2 races we have in Jerez and the 2 races we have in Valencia. And then Ramirez Fernandez gets the oversized fuel check there. Of course, in Spain, they do sometimes have 2 last names due to naming convention, so that no one got confused with that check. That is actually his full last name. It's just that it's much easier for us to say Marcos Ramirez. And here is the Spanish national anthem. And there you have it, your Moto3 Junior World Championship podium. Now they get ready for the photo. And what a photo that will make for the likes of Ramirez and Raul Fernandez. I'm sure that there'll be at least 1 or 2 copies up on the fridge in the Fernandez household. And look how eager he is to get on with the fizzy water. It looks like that bottle was already shaken up for him and giving the team something to drink.
And these guys, of course, don't have to worry about using these leathers again today.
No, exactly. As we said, they will be back in action on the 2nd of October, so plenty of time to get the leathers clean. But here is the championship standings. Lorenzo Della Porta, 163 points, 31 points ahead of Marcus Ramirez. Kato Toba continues to hold on to 3rd, but his championship ambitions are long since gone. Raul Fernandez, great to see him move up into 4th, 2 points ahead of Alonso Lopez. Ayumu Sasaki in 6th, despite the DNF. Jeremy Alcoba, 7th. Alberto Arenas still in 8th, despite him not racing due to a broken collarbone. Kazuki Masaki, solid work, sees him stay in 9th. As I said, he did finish, I believe it was 17th. No points, but still decent. Tony Arbolino, he's tied with Dennis Foggia on 50 points. Stefano Manzi on 49. Makar Yurchenko, another one who wasn't here, he's still 13th. Jamal Messiah, 14th. Nakra and Adarat Fuvapat, he moves into the top 15, on track to achieve his goals for the year. Marco Bezzecchi in 16th. Enzo Bullon up to 17th, ahead of Jared Ryu. John McPhee, of course, he did have a wild card, so that's why he's there. He's ahead of Carol Haneke. Haneke not finishing this race. Aaron Polanco in 21st. Alex Ruiz, Rufino Florido, Davide Pozzoli, Yari Montoya, Andy Farrell scores his 1st points of the year, ahead of Maximilian Kapler, Bruno Uccini, Filippo Sacco, Filippo Follini, and Rory Skinner there, still with only 1 point as technical problems continue to plague him. And we now have the 2nd race of the Superbike European Championship coming up in just a few minutes' time. So don't go anywhere, because it is going to be an absolutely incredible battle, I am sure.